Welcome to the underside of my TVR CHIMAERA. The time is now 6:20 on a Saturday evening. Why am I underneath my TVR CHIMAERA, you might ask? Well, I shouldn't be. I should be at home. But my TVR CHIMAERA has decided to leak petrol. Petrol is, of course, expensive and flammable. Two reasons why I want it in the tank and not on the floor. So what I'm going to have to quickly do now is to see if I can either stop it so I can go home, or, well, I have to stop it. That's all I can do. But I'm not going to fix it now. But yeah, bit of an unplanned one. This I was supposed to be recording some Betty stuff, some Betty voiceovers and whatnot. But there we go. So let's have a look and see if we can figure out where it's coming from. So we move underneath the chim, and here is the fuel pump. So you've got the rear wishbone here. This is the air equalizer holes for the boot. So when you shut the boot or shut the doors, you don't pop something. That's where the air comes out. And yeah, anti-roll bar, wishbone, damper up there, fuel pump with petrol that is coming out and is not meant to be. So the tank sits in the body here. There's a bit of pipe going through, a bit of copper that goes up, and in fact it might be brass actually, in a sort of humpback bridge type affair going over the top of the wishbone, and then this short little section of rubber here. Now this is all old. All the hose on this car is old and is possibly original, and that's one of the reasons, well, one of the chief suspects for this leak. And I do plan to change all that. Obviously eventually I'm going to be doing the whole chassis. I'm going to be taking the body off of the chassis completely and sorting the chassis out because it is rusty. They do that. In fairness, it's made of steel. Steel rusts. I'm not going to do that this year. This year I'm going to get it on the road. Oh, I'm going to stop the anti-roll bar rubbing the exhaust plate as well. Yeah, I'm not going to do that this year. I'm going to do that next year probably. I'm just going to get this thing on the road this year, fix the things that are wrong with it and put some miles on it. Because it's solid, there's no holes in it yet, but there will be. Give it time. But I'm not here to concentrate on that. I'm here to concentrate on the matter in hand. And I'm suspecting it's, as you can see, there we go. Yeah, so you've got the fuel hose here. So this is the in. Fuel pump here, spins it up to high pressure, sends it back out through a smaller hose. I mean, that fuel hose clip there, that Jubilee clip, is gripping that hose pretty tight, and it's eating its way into it, hasn't it? That's what my waist looks like after I've put on a pair of 34-inch waist jeans. And I'm suspecting it's coming out of that hose, although I put this clamp on it to try and stop it, and it hasn't stopped it. Because what should happen is fuel shouldn't leak out of the tank and go through the pump and come out, because the pump's got a kind of valve in it that stops it leaking. So it shouldn't actually be leaking from the tank. So I assumed it's leaking back through from the fuel line. This fuel line here goes up to the, it's not that there, but it goes off to the front, up to the engine. And of course, this drip, drip, drip could be everything that's in that line, which stays there while the car is parked up. It could be that leaking back out. Okay, I'm just going to get an airline on this. Okay, right, so I've got an airline. I'm just going to try and clean this off without getting a face full of petrol. But it doesn't look like it's coming out the hose. I have had my BX 16 valve once. The body of the fuel pump is aluminium, and it corroded underneath the steel bracket. But it doesn't, it looks like it's coming out of here, which is normally the spigot, the hose going on to, hang on, oh God, that's clean. What? Sorry, say that, what? Okay. Okay, so it appears what's happened is the pump itself is leaking. It's leaking between the aluminium and the plastic insert on the end that the terminals and the spigot are on, where it's all crimped together, it's just leaking out of there, which means it will slowly empty the fuel tank. It's got about 20 litres in it. And I can't stop it. I can't crimp that hose that goes into the pump because it's only about this long, and half of that distance is spigots. And if I try and crush the bit in between the spigots, it's just, I mean, it's old hose, it's just going to rip it. And then I really will have a leak. So I can either pull the hose that's going into the pump off and try and bung it up and juggle loads of petrol spraying out everywhere. That never ends well. Or I empty the tank so that it stops leaking. But it hasn't been running properly. It's been misfiring. One of the videos I was going to do on this car was service, spark plug change and things like that, because it's misfiring. But it might be that it's not got enough fuel pressure. It might be that could be why it's running like crud. I can't leave that either. Look, yeah, it's not a sort of, oh, you could just leave it overnight and deal with it tomorrow. That's on me think, yeah, there's loads coming out. I haven't even got a fuel pump here. That's the annoying thing. I used my last one on a customer's car. So now I've got to empty the fuel tank. Now, to do this, I do have a secret weapon. Behold, my secret weapon. Some hose and some crocodile clips. And another fuel pump. That's an old pump that was taken off of my old TVR, as opposed to my brand new TVR. Yeah, that's off of an S, which had a different flow rate and pressure, so I couldn't use that pump on this anyway. But I made this to siphon fuel tanks because I was sick of getting petrol in my armpit. And yeah, if you're trying to undo something, it runs right down your arm. It stings. So I made this, and you stuff one end down the filler neck, and you put the other end in a jerry can, and you just hook it up to a battery some way away. That's why it's got a bit of wire on it, because it's keep it away from where the petrol is. And yeah, it sucks all the petrol out until there is no more to suck out. But I need to get to the fuel cap. Where is the fuel cap on a TVR? No. It's in the boot. Of course it is. Fuel caps are ugly. Why would you want to see one? Hide it in the boot. Okay, fine. I get that. So I need to open the boot. Now, the battery on this car is iffy, and it's buried in the footwell. And I don't think I'm going to be able to open the boot. It's a good looking car, isn't it? Come with me and see if I can open my boot. Do we have anything on the ignition at all? No. Just trying the fob here. Nothing. Joy. The reason that's a pain is because you won't be able to see it, but there's a button under the dashboard. That's what opens the boot. And I'm pretty sure... Nope. Right, okay, so that means I've either got the battery's buried under the dashboard, but with this car actually does have some Anderson connectors under the bonnet. So I'm going to hook up to those and hook up another battery just so I can open the boot, so I can drain the fuel tank. Is the bonnet open? I think it was already. Right. I'm supposed to be at home. Right, there's the Anderson connector down there, which is kind of like just a connector, if you like, a heavy-duty connector for heavy-duty cables. This has got one down there because TVRs quite often need jump-starting. Right, okay. So I've now got a battery down there. The other end, which is the connector here, plug that in. In theory now, we will have 12 volts. And we've got an interior light, so that's a good start. Aha! Please. Right, where's the button? Yay! Ooh, God, it's stuck. There is the fuel cap. Oh, God, the pressure. I would look at the petrol gauge to see how much is in the tank, but I mean, like that's going to be accurate. Right, so through the little fillery doobry. Didn't think I was going to go in then. I need to film this so that you can see video evidence. This is how he died. This is how he blew himself up. So let's go positive on first. And I should hook up the negative, and it should, in theory, just start buzzing away, pumping fuel into that. Is it? No. I've got the wires round the right way. Is it not? Have I gone too far? I think I might have. Is that the bottom of the tank? Let's try that. I might have pushed it in too far and it might have looped and gone back up again. So the hose might have gone in and gone up and gone back round. Oh yeah, there we go. Really should put a sight glass on the side of a jerry can. There you go. Look at my exceptionally dangerous layout. This is not ideal, but it's late. So, there you go. You see? That is how fast a, Ford Sierra XR4i, because that's what the fuel pump is for, that's how much fuel it moves. So, I shall leave this to buzz away. It will fill that jerry can up. If that one starts to get near the top, I'll move it to this one. And when the pump goes nuts and high-pitched and starts shuddering, that means it's cavitating and getting air, and I disconnect it. Okay, I may have been somewhat optimistic with my 20 litres or so, because that's probably about 7, something like that. So, I wonder how long that's been leaking. It has been leaving little puddles on the floor. But I thought that was the DEF oil. Because it kind of, well, it had a tint to it when it was on the floor. Never even looked at it. It's the problem. Don't ever buy a car off a mechanic. Unless you're the person who has already bought Meg, the black BX. If it was a customer's car, I'd see a puddle on the floor and go, oh no, that's terrible, and fix it. If I see a puddle under this, I go, oh, for God's sake. Ugh. And walk off. Then just go, oh, that'll be it right. Never even look at it. So, that's the problem. What this needs now, it needs the fuel system repiping, and now it needs a new fuel pump. But yeah, I mean, I would repipe the fuel system when I do the chassis, because you have to take all that apart to do that. But I think as we're going to be driving it about, it would make sense to change. I mean, the pipe work I'll leave, but just the bits of hose, I'll put all those on, and then I can take them off again when I go to do the chassis next year. So let's have a look and see if it stopped leaking. Right, let's go and have a look-see. There's a drip there. Of course, it will. When I'm trying to suck everything out the fuel tank, it won't go down as far as this. So what I'm hoping is that this drip starts to slow down. Let's just give it a quick. Oh, that's much better than it was. I think that might have stopped it. Because what I really want is to stop it so that I can go home. Well, while I'm there, yeah, so this is the underside of the chassis. Yeah, these are the outriggers. So the chassis got a main kind of box section. Well, yeah, it's effectively a box section that runs along the middle, space frame, and then these tubes come out here from the main chassis and just support the edge of the body, mount the seat belts, all that kind of thing. So these are the outriggers, the infamous outriggers. These are what corrode first. Normally in this corner up here, to the front corner is normally the first place they go. They're not limited to the front corner, they can go all over the place, but yeah, it's not. I've seen far worse than that. This is just totally original, this thing, so I might have had a bit of hammerite at one point, but I don't think that's going to do much. Yeah, so the main chassis, which is all along there, is pretty good, normally because it's covered in oil, which is another job this car needs. Sump gasket. There isn't a saying with the Rover V8 engine, if there's no oil on it, there's no oil in it. But this one is excessive. This leaks a lot of oil. So I need to sort that. And as you can see, the original powder coating is just flaking off. But this is there were a couple of different colours TVR did. Well, actually, there were three. The earliest cars, Griffiths and Chimeras, up until around about 1996, had silver chassis like this. And then after that, they had white. And these silver ones last better than the white ones. Don't know why. Don't know why I walked over there. You can't see anything now because I put that light there. So yeah, these silver chassis, you can see there's some silver here. These do last better. The latest cars, the last year or two, they were grey, a bit like the sort of Tuscans and Timuras, very light grey. So that's what I thought it was, the diff, because the diff is also leaking, because there's two different types of diff on a Chimera. There's the GKN type, which is what that is, and there's the BTR. The GKN is the better one to have in terms of how it drives, because it's lighter. I think the ratios are normally a little shorter, and it's a torsion diff. It's a torque sensing diff, limited slip diff. Yeah, they're decent. The problem with them is they're not quite as strong as the later ones, the BTRs. And obviously, if you go for more power, you need stronger. And the other problem is they're an absolute sod to stop them leaking. And if the cases get damaged or anything, you can't get bits from. The BTR one, much stronger. The GKM originally used in a Maserati, whereas the BTR was used in a London taxi, among other things. I think it was in some Aston Martins as well. But yeah, we'll do all this one day. Take it all apart, take the body off, do the whole lot. I find it's actually quite easy now. So I do so many of these, it's just the time. I'm hoping this one won't need too much welding either. It's probably going to need some corners. Once it's been shot blasted, it'll reveal some nasties, but it's looking all right. That's why I'm happy to drive it as it is. This actually looks worse, this inner one. These inner gussets here, they tend to be better than the outer ones, but they really are. On the white chassis cars, you quite often get holes up here along that bit, but the silver ones, not so much. It's got the T5 gearbox. This one hasn't got the Rover box. It's got the Borgwarner T5 as fitted to Cosworth. Sierra 2-wheel drive Cosworth. Looks like that's been leaking as well. So engine's leaking, the gearbox is leaking, the diff's leaking, and the fuel's leaking. What about the power steering? Amazing, it's not. They always do. Right, now, my fuel tank's pretty much stopped leaking all over the floor. There is still the odd drip or two, so I'm going to finish up here, wait for that to dry up properly, and then skedaddle home. I need to order a new fuel pump. I've got some hose. So what I'll do is we'll tackle this one night next week. We'll take the fuel pump off. We'll change the two big bits of hose. It goes from the fuel pump up to the filter, and then out the filter and back down again and down to here, above the anti-roll bar. And then it runs along there in a copper pipe. But the connection is here, so I will change that. I won't change the copper. We'll leave the copper in for now. And at the other end, it goes up over the top of the gearbox and into the back of the fuel rail. above the bell housing, I will probably change those as well, because it's quite important. If those ones go, it's in your engine bay. So we'll do the filter as well. It's part of a major service really, but I'll do the filter now, and then next year when I go to do the chassis, I won't bother changing the filter. I'll just put the other one back in, because it's only going to be a couple of 1,000 miles old, if that. That's the original TVR fuel hose, that. Yeah, that's going to all need changing. And then I need to look at the other things that are stopping this thing going on the road, like the lack of brakes. That's quite an important one. And the lack of wipers. I don't know if it's got a triangular doom or not. I don't think Chimeras do. I think they've got overlap. But yeah, it's the brakes, the wipers, the demister, heater demister, the roof has got holes in it, and the paint needs a bit of love. It's quite manky. So get those bits done. No, it'll need discs as well, I expect. They're all rusted. Yeah. So we'll get all those bits done and hopefully get this thing on the road. I'm actually going to push this in front of the queue of the Imp now. And the Imp had its place in the queue and I was working on it, but I'm going to push this in front because this is closer to being usable, really. And that's more usable than the Imp. I could use that every day if I wanted to. The Imp, not so much. So, yeah, I think that'll do for now. That looks like it stopped leaking now anyway. So, it's drying up down there. Right. See you next time.